I came across this book called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. It's by Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette. That book had a lot of fascinating origins of king. So, it really enlightened me on the history of kings and symbolism and just learning more about what is actually inside of the king archetype. And, the good king, the good king that all men have inside, and you have too. So one was it traced kings all the way back, king mythology all the way back to Mesopotamia, Egypt, some parts of Asia, and even Native American culture. And all of these cultures had one thing in common with the kings, which was they would all start with a circle and a cross and a point in the middle, which was where the kings would focus their attention. And that is said to be where kings received divine guidance. And in that point in the center was usually a mountain or some kind of mound or a hill or a mountain peak where they would literally get their divine guidance, and then they would work that internally. They would apply it to themselves, and then they would enforce it to their people. So that is fascinating to me, this symbolism of the cross and the center point. So it's this organizing land or the realm into four quadrants. And there's always this order with kings. So it could be something to think about. What does your inner king want to organize? What is your inner king organizing? What is your inner king's central point? What is the mountain peak for your inner king? And then how do you hear the divine? How do you connect with divine guidance? Providership is huge with kings. And it wasn't just providing material things, they were said to actually provide blessings to everyone in the kingdom and the whole land because they were so intertwined with the divine. Now, again, this is light kings, this is your good king. It can also totally go to the dark side. That's another thing. So, yeah, you can reflect on what symbols help you be a king, help you access your inner king. What are those really sacred divine masculine symbols for you? Maybe it's not a cross, maybe it's something else. And then how do you get divine guidance? Do you go to church, or do you pray privately at home? Do you say a rosary? Or do you just go out in nature? Maybe just the trees and the forests are your divine guidance. So, how does the good king in you feel about power? There's a lot to unpack in this, and I find I get all kinds of different responses from men when I ask them. Some men are terrified of power, some fully embrace it, they love it, some hate it, they try to shame it instantly. But it's kind of ironic because the same part of them that's trying to shame men with status and power is their own power, but repressed. That's interesting how that works. We know that kings all throughout history have had to contend with enormous power, enormous power. So, and if we examine the mythology of kings, we see they all do it in different ways. Some of them freak out about it, they go to the dark side. Some of them are good with it, and some of them find it really challenging. I think one of the best depictions of a king on screen has to be Sean Connery in this 90s movie called The First Knight. Oh, he is so good at being the king archetype because he is so good. He really, really is. You can tell he cares about all the people. You can tell he cares about everybody, and he sees the good in all of his men, even strangers in the movie. He tries to see the good in them. And then, but when he needs to go to war, he will for the good of the people. And he's respectable. He has a lot of grace too. I just love the way, yeah, I'm going to stop talking about it. You really just have to watch it to really get it. But that's a good performance of a king. Another one a lot of us are familiar with is Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. He deals with massive power through, honestly, avoidance. So most of the movie, he's kind of put himself in exile. He feels a little bit of shame or like resistance to it because his family members didn't deal with power very well. So you can see how he works really, really hard to earn that kingly power. And then at the end, he does get crowned king. So he rules with humility, which is just so amazing. And then we can't address king mythology without looking at some of the characters who've ruled from the dark side. So we have certain kings in films like David Bowie in The Labyrinth. I believe he was called King Jareth, but he was very manipulative and dark and shadowy. And then, of course, we all know Joffrey from Game of Thrones, who was just totally abusive, tyrant. So that's the other way it can go. If that comes from like severe, severe father wounding. And that brings us to the most honest part of this. So the most honest truth about the king is that his origins are in the father. So just breathe into that for a minute. The father archetype. Think about your own father, your connection with him, and if you're a father, think about your own fatherhood. If you're not, you're probably mentoring people in some way, probably fathering something, fathering yourself. So I have these masculine archetype decks, and they're very handy to use with clients and super, super creative way to pull out more of your inner king and have you examine more of him. And I thought it would be fun to read this section on the father. So, the father is reliable, supportive, and giving. To cultivate more of your healthy father, it's important to cultivate acts of service, leadership, and mentoring. Some of the challenges would be becoming a martyr, being overbearing, and abuse of authority, so abusing your authority. Some sub-archetypes for the father would be land steward, mentor, provider, and caregiver. Land steward is so much like the ancient kings. I think of the Celtic kings who were known to choose a queen based on how connected she was to the earth and how sovereign she was. They would always choose the most sovereign maiden, and they would rule together. And mythology, at least, which I love, is that the more in tune they were to the land, the more the kingdom prospered and the happier that everybody was. But the more out of touch they were with nature and the earth, the more the kingdom would fall apart. Some shadow aspects of the father would be the constant rescuer and the deadbeat dad. So the father strives to be compassionate, generous, benevolent, and supportive. His selfless love encourages the potential of others. He shares his gifts without the need for payment or recognition. He is an advisor, healer, leader, and provider. At his core, the father seeks safety and security for those he loves. He makes personal sacrifices to create a supportive environment. This can sometimes be a lonely and underappreciated role. If the father expects something for his work, it can lead to resentment and push the father into the shadow aspects of the deadbeat. If love and support are given without attachment, then the father archetype can create deep healing for others. One of the most challenging tasks for the father is finding the balance between protection and freedom. If he overprotects his child, community, or loved ones, it can turn into a dictatorship. But if the father is too hands-off, his loved ones might not have the structure they need to grow. This may make them feel unsafe, abandoned, or uncared for. Rather than safeguarding people from harm, the father should try and teach them how to find growth from adversity. You connect to the father archetype through nurturing others, yourself, and the world. The archetype is the supportive voice that wants the best for you. When you draw this card, consider how you support others. What responsibilities are you hiding from? Do you allow loved ones their freedom? And how could you be a guide to others' growth? I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for joining me on this video today. And if you would like to work with me one-on-one, I will link it below.